Okay, I'm back again. It's my day off. I'm lazy. So, got to thinking about this whole eyes of the tiger thing and using a little logic, something something kind of struck me. It's this eyes of the tiger wants this feeling of self-importance, right? Meanwhile, enabling Mr. Shell, which I think is probably secondary to feeling important. But I would say that it's someone clearly who does not want to be identified as assisting Mr. Shell, right? So you start to ask yourself, with all of what's going on with my prior video, which was um, this eyes of the tiger person publicly trying to funnel people back to Mr. Shell. Now, does this person who is alerting everyone to the fact that if you contact Mr. Shell, that you also would be subject at some point potentially to be FOIA'd? So this person is definitely on that list too, of potential victims of Ernie Shell FOIAs. Right now, I don't know what the payoff is for assisting Mr. Shell, other than I think some of the obvious, right? Which is helping him fulfill his need of self importance, helping him stroke his ego, maybe we know that in the past incarcerations, he will use his YouTube stuff as leverage to make himself a pod boss, right? So moving forward from that, I feel like I know who would potentially want this self importance. And I think that it's a sad testament to maybe a social life that was lacking or non existent, right? Moving forward from that. So, yesterday, sometime, Tina, she makes a comment on one of my videos about Mr. Shell. Now, what's interesting about Tina and her involvement in all this is that Tina, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, but what I do know is that Tina was one of the most staunch supporters, that in Mammoth, right? So you have these personalities on the tube who are really incapable of finding and supporting the right person, right? Everyone, and I don't mean that in terms of everyone, not even excluding one, but everyone that these people support didn't just end up being bad characters, right? They were always bad characters. And if you supported them so publicly, then you also knew intimately the things they were doing, and you chose to support these people right up and until the bad character defects from the private interactions become public. Case in point, Mammoth, right now, right? Now she's following suit and she's moving away from the drama, as are a few other people. And there's definitely a motivator for that, right? It's not like, oh, all of a sudden we decide we don't want to be involved in the drama. No, there's something incoming. There's something pending. Now, I received some information that Ray has planned on, or maybe even has said that he's on his way to Massachusetts in order to visit Mr. Shell. Now, do I believe that Mr. Shell would meet with Wei? I don't know. I'm jaded. Yesterday I was jaded about that. Today, with him seeking out validation through videos, emails, and calls and stuff from the jail, I do believe that Ernie Shell would visit with Way Way. Now, that being said, Ray Ray, who did, I don't know, 12 or 18 months in a federal correction situation for threatening the life of one of our past presidents, he knows the protocol in which you have to go through in order to be on the visitors list. You could fill out all the paperwork, and if Mr. Shell does not want to visit with you, you just won't be visiting with him. Mr. Weiwei also is so disillusioned into thinking that he can strap up his chest-mounted GoPro and sneak that into a corrections facility in Massachusetts. Not going to happen. I also would urge Weiwei to go ahead and fill out the paperwork, the application to be someone on his visitors list. I would tell him to do that before you just drive to Massachusetts. It all makes no sense, right? Now, in terms of Tina has been one of Ernie's more diabolical enablers. Because even throughout the course of even just the recent past, we've seen this inability for Tina to completely sever the umbilical cord between her and Mr. Shell. I mean, it's impossible because Tina still wants to be important to people on the internet. So imagine being besties, right, with Debo. Meanwhile, you've got this situation that was, an ugly situation. It was an ugly situation. So there is really no loyalty with Tina and anyone on the internet, as far as I can see, other than Ernie, right? So back to what came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know if Ernie introduced the idea of LARPing to Tina or if Tina introduced the idea of LARPing to him, right? However, we still have this long-standing series of LARPs that Tina has been involved with, all the way back to the onset, which was the volunteer racetrack, right? And I don't need to go into it. If you know, you know. But Tina has monetarily benefited from being involved with Mr. Shell. Now, there's a comment here where she says, "You were the one who brought him to YouTube. If it had not been for you and Cher, he may never even have gone down this path of self-destruction." Now, that's like saying that I made him go into the basement with Marky. I made him do drugs. I make him live stream. I mean, if anything, you have been the largest enabler because Mr. Shell would have been forced to deal with his legal issues in a timely fashion. You and your people came up with the bond money to get him out of jail. Not to mention, you also profited on the bond money, right? You were not proactive in chasing down your own bond money until the very end. And I don't know what you had to tell these folks in order to get the money back, because theoretically, with Ernie Shell not under his own power showing up to the court, that money should have been null and void. They should have kept that money. However, you got that money back. You profited from it, and you never redistributed the money that you profited back to the people who spent it to get him out. Now, had you not got him out, he probably would have started looking better for the situation once he came up in front of a judge, right? So, Ernie Shell, at his worst, in my opinion, you enabled him out of jail to continue the LARP and to continue to victimize more people on the internet. Imagine if you would have let him sit in jail, this situation with Debo maybe never would have been a thing. So you have to start asking yourself, what was your part in the situation with Debo? Either that or you believe Debo is lying, which I feel like that could be a possibility because you continue to interact with Mr. Shell on his panels, on your panels, and even so, wearing you're very scantily clad, and you are making sexual conversation with Mr. Shell, right? So it can't be all the ways all the time. In fact, in this situation, it can't be any of the ways, Tina, right? So take that as food for thought when you run around here making half thought out posts where you allow the mouth on your thumbs to speak before the brain between your ears, okay? Because I'm stuck right there. Unless you think Debo is lying, he would have had to navigate that whole legal process without doing it on the streets. What he did on the streets meant nothing when you get to the end of it, right? As well as Ernie Shell having a long history of milking people for money on the internet, still refused to invest in his own legal situation by even getting the most bottom line, the base option attorney, right? So you played a much larger role in the self-destruction of Ernie Shell than anyone else. I think that you're not even quite neck and neck, but those gals that continue to run around in packs, hate bonding with people now, the Slow Terrys, the Beloved Ghosts, so on and so forth, those gals are die hard. You are, but you just take what appears to be in the optics of it all, right? You are an oppositional stance, but you still have this long-standing history, right? You still support Mr. Shell. You support Way and all of the things that he's done. And you've even went so far as to say that you don't care about what Way has done. Fair enough. No one's holding your feet to the fire for that. However, I will hold your feet to the fire in saying that there are more victims than just Debo when you look in terms of you financially recovering his freedom for him. You also you also help create a situation where he was able to victimize himself, MAGA, and many others, right? So you need to slow down a little bit, Tina, because you are incapable of making rational decisions and conversation when it comes to Ernie, right? You're all over the place and it just makes no sense, right? You have no foresight, no hindsight. You're just not able to put two good comments together in terms of anything Ernie Shell does. So, I guess that being said, you got to check yourself, Tina, right? Anyways, it's all my fault. Remember, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Have a great day.